Turn on that radio and back here. The cops ain't likely to catch up with us, not tonight. So we can all be quiet and peaceable and listen to the music.
This episode of Auto Dealer Live is brought to you by TrueCar.
All right, what's up, guys? We're here live at 3:30. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Come
are.
on now. We're 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the East Coast of the United States of America, Auto Dealer Live. What's up, Danny Benitez? Look at you over there.
I'm feeling unusually comfortable.
Why do you feel so comfortable, Danny? What you got going on?
There's just something freeing about being up here with you guys. And,
Yeah.
Liberating.
If you follow me on Facebook, you know why Danny is feeling so comfortable, because I kind of went live right before we went live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I kind of gave it close up.
Well, good. Well, good. You guys make me feel very comfortable. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. You guys have been very accommodating, and I'm just ready to strip down to the basics.
Brass tacks.
I mean, just really.
You're halfway there, so.
I think we ought to just really,
Go ahead.
bear some things out. So,
Well, good. Hey, I'm excited, man, about today's show. We're going to be talking about Roach bait subprime. The show title's Roach bait. We've got some controversy off that because, we wanted to qualify that a little bit because the truth is, with subprime customers, Dave, we're going to talk to the dealers that are going to be on today about this. These guys they found a way to take this subprime customer and embrace them and turn them into a sale. So really, we got some attention with the title, but the reality is there's a lot of money into this. I'm excited to talk to the guys about this show. But is it ironic though that Tommy looks like he's playing the piano over here?
He looks like Billy Joel.
Look at him. He's got the boom stand over here. Like
I don't know any of Billy Joel's songs except for Piano Man. I didn't want to do it.
Why not?
What's a Billy Joel song? What's another one?
You can't cover
Uptown
that
Girl.
one.
Uptown Girl.
How many you want?
Uptown Girl.
Okay.
Uptown
Is
Girl.
it time for a break, Dave?
Y'all miss me?
I'd like
I was
to-
gone for a minute. You thought I was gone for good.
I wanna
Yeah,
come
I'm
back,
back.
if it's okay, to the title. I mean, we've been talking about me coming on the show live for a while, and so finally we're able to get everything to work.
Right.
And I get to come back for Roach bait. All right, thanks. Thanks so much.
It was your title, man.
I'm going to take a drink now.
It was your title, right? I mean, you came up with the title, and
Did I come up
Is
with
that not
I think so.
is that not PC? Is that why the problem with that?
Well,
Is that what it is?
I think it's PC. I don't.
Well,
it's been a while.
Okay,
but
Matt's going to come on here in a
Okay, yeah,
minute,
maybe
and
it's not
and
easy.
one of the things that he brought up in this conversation, and I wanted to clarify it with him is because they have an incredibly strong. We did a little modification on the marketing aspect for Matt because he wanted to market it to his social media, and he didn't want to give the misconception to his customers that that's the way they were viewed. So because he's doing an incredible job. So I think that the conversation is going to be incredibly strong, and there is a challenge no matter what, right? Getting somebody bought in this particular genre. But I think that the reality is they're human beings, and you know what? And they can be an incredibly strong component to your business. I think that's really the deal.
They're human beings too.
Yeah,
Even though we refer to them as roaches.
Yeah, the title
Still
and the image, I mean, let's face it, was provocative title, right? We did that on purpose, get everybody's attention. This is a kind of a B2B show. It's not really, you know what I mean? It's not as directed to
Really?
consumers as it is to dealers and the auto industry. So yes, it got your attention, but obviously, I think we're all already at the point where we understand the evolution that we've had when it comes to subprime. That we treat any customer, no matter what their situation is, as far as credit score, qualifying, whatever, need to be treated like gold, regardless of anything. And I think we're very much aware of that. But I'm sure that that's going to come up in conversation. The bottom line is we're talking about the subprime market, how to take advantage of this market within the industry, the things to do, the things not to do. We've got an industry expert here, a dealer for many, many years, and now consulting dealers and helping them deal with subprime along with every other category on the showroom. So it's going to be a great show. We've got some amazing guests coming up, and what do you think, Danny?
I'm excited. I'm really excited to pick these guys' brains because the special finance animal, it's just a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
And it has to be approached different. It has to be marketed different. The websites have to be treated different. The process is really backwards, and you work a deal backwards. So I'm interested to find people who have really jumped into this market. It's not a market, and they'll attest to this, and I know this as well. That it's not something you just kind of tip your toe into. I mean, if you're going to go in, you go in. It requires an extreme commitment from marketing, inventory, training. You have to separate those things out. You have to consider what market you're going to go after, and it's a sticky wicket, and I'm anxious to see these people have great success and really learn from them and ask some questions that I've had for a long time. So.
Well, outstanding. Well, we're going to get right to it. And you hit it on the head, and I'm going to probably lead with that very line of questioning, Danny, where it's not only it's lucrative. Right. And it's if you do have to commit to it because thank God for subprime and for this genre of business because it's a niche that we actually serve, and so we get the privilege of working with a lot of dealers that focus on this. So, but we notice in that process of dealing with dealers who do, and then maybe signing somebody up with the program who kind of is like, I'm going to put my toe in the water, like the old Zach Brown song or whatever. But the reality is you can't do that. If you put your toe in the water, then you're probably going to get it bitten off by a shark, So I'm anxious to kind of hear, where they began to kind of dive into this, because if you do invest in it the right way, it not only is very lucrative, but it's very rewarding. I mean, you have customers that are probably going to be your customers forever.
They're extremely loyal, and you have to approach it as a partnership with these people to help them rebuild credit. I mean, we've all been through things. You know my story. I went through a tough time, and so. Regardless of how it happened, if it happened, then dealerships that become a partner of these people, and they're not just in there because subprime makes a lot of money or so on and so forth. With a lot of the discounts and stuff, it's not always smooth sailing. But
right.
But if you go in there and understand it's a partnership, it's a way to get another segment of the buying public into the life cycle. That's the mindset that I predict we're going to hear.
Absolutely.
And I think these successful people will they'll clear that up.
Yes, I will. Yes, so we're going to go take a quick, extreme, belligerent profit timeout. We'll be back with No Pants Dan and the rest of the crew
What are
here.
you talking about?
It's just a nickname he has. It's nothing to do with anything about his current situation and whether he has pants on right now or not.
And whether or not I'm sitting too close to him right now. That's another thing that's...
I don't know why he hasn't pulled up his pants yet. That's what I'm conflicted with.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So we're going to get into the subprime thing here in about a minute. Come on back, won't you please? Thank you. Seeing of you.
Hi, I'm Chip Perry. The pledge was and is an action plan designed to address head-on the concerns that many of you told me about right after I took this job. Thus far, our dealer pledge has been aimed at fixing the major pain points that you told us about related to our product, our customer service, and our consumer advertising. I'd like to reiterate that our dealer pledge is our ongoing commitment to you, our dealer customers, and we will continue to work hard to improve our service to you.
It will yield in attention. You people will look at you in admiration because you've been willing to commit yourself to a process that...
Next time we find that industry leader, we look around and we say, I'm it. Because I do it with excellence.
Serial Sales Pros boot camp right now. Getting into our group discussions. Before we get to Q&A, we wanted to give the guys a chance to partner up into their teams and ask them questions that are relevant to their business.
Brent Hawking here, hanging out at the sales boot camp, having a blast. Love the positivity that David and his crew bring.
continued education is a must. We have to invest in ourselves every single day.
Okay, we're back, and let's go ahead and get the experts on. Without further ado, we're going to bring on one of our favorites, good friend of mine, and one of the strongest car guys I know. Just recently acquired a Mitsubishi Point as well. Is lighting it up in Michigan and Grand Blanc, as well as Fenton. And we got Matt Lasko, Vice President of Lasko Auto Group. We also have Josh Mitchell, one of the strongest directors of BDC, one of the strongest I know personally, and he's with Huntington Beach Chrysler. And we have Pat O'Brien, which is, Pat's one of our favorite guys in the subprime industry. One of the strongest paper hangers. Come on, one of the strongest out there. And then we've got Ben Burton, which if Pat's not the strongest, Ben might be. So I'm not really sure. So the two of them, it's yet to be seen who gets the trophy. Ben Burton, Pat O'Brien, Josh Mitchell, and Matt Lasko. Cribs, as always, sir, we're going to give you the ceremonial first pitch.
All right, well, let's go. Hey, let's go over to Matt. Welcome back to the show, Matt. Appreciate you coming on and carving out the time here. Look, this is a market that you're very familiar with up there, and to maybe share with some of the dealers, maybe how you approach your marketing when it comes to subprime, what it's doing for you, and maybe where it's headed.
Well, I guess step one that I preach to any dealer that approaches me on the topic is before you get into the marketing, you just have to kind of open your eyes up. Unless you happen to be in the one perfect county and the one perfect city of your state, you have so much subprime business either calling your dealership or submitting a lead or coming through and not getting approved that if you focused alone on that business, you'll get an instant lift. And that's kind of an awareness thing that I think many dealers miss out on. They think, I need to get into subprime. Well, subprime's kind of already in front of you in most cases. If you don't pay attention to it, you miss those opportunities. But when it comes down to the marketing, in our case, I feel like there's three solid avenues. We do use mail. We use some TV. We use some radio. I won't give you an instant pitch to use because I feel like the pitch has to match your style of your dealership and also the clientele you're reaching out to. Every dealer, you can sell subprime BMWs if you're in the right city with the right income, or you might sell $6,000 CAC cars with $800 down. So your marketing has to match what's in front of you. And I guess that's one of the things that I would tell people to slow down and pay attention to. It's not just broad subprime, it's the subprime you can actually deliver.
Thank you, Matt. Matt, I'm going to stay with you for 1 second, and I don't know. I should know this is. Follows us, but and we're pretty much we call the comments either way. So he's putting it out here, so I'm not busting his chops, but I'm going to read his comment. And this may be stinking thinking. I know you're not going to agree with this, but Donald Friedman. I don't know who that is, but Donald said a comment, said it's a shame that, and hopefully I'm reading this right. If not, Donald, you can correct me. It's a shame, he said, that subprime customers created their own way to play. They get a car and park it on the street in 3 months. Can I ask you, Matt, if I understand that correctly, is that precisely why you make so much money in subprime, because you don't view it that way?
Yeah. What I would say is that's the 1%er. The 99%er is the poor person that didn't get educated in high school about bills and income and caught themselves at some stage in life where they were overextended and a bad thing happened. And Danny said it himself, every one of us has been in a spot where, boy, I hope I can make that payment. And if 3 of those payments piled up at once, they might not have. And so I don't feel like the people put themselves in a place. Yes, as a dealer that does subprime, I see someone that might have 3 subprime repos. That person is a much smaller portion of the society than we realize. A lot of them are people that just need some help getting life back in order.
Well, I'd like to hit on something that you said. When I was initially in Texas, I worked with a local high school. I would encourage people that are listening to think about doing this. We want to give back when we do things for the community, and this can come back to benefit you later time. And it's exactly what you said. I used to go and do classes for life management at the high school. And I would just go really once or twice a semester, and we would teach high school kids what the credit report was, how to read a credit report, what works, what doesn't, what beacon scores mean to you, and how to start establishing it from a young age. And I'll tell you, little that I've done in this business has been more rewarding than that. For them to understand what credit is and to get started the right way. They're about to go into college years and all those things. So, it's time that we equip our young people with things that are usable.
That's good.
And it's really great for your dealership to be a part of that. And let me tell you, they're buying cars and they remember that, and their parents are thankful in there too. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that brings that back up, and I think it's a good thing to do.
It's good.
Yeah, that's a great point.
This is Ben. I want to throw something in there real quick. That was Danny, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. One thing that we did in Meridian, and they still do it. We started doing this when we opened. Is they do a career day. They do it towards the end of the school year. But what we started doing is we went out and took 4 cars. Kia stores. So we took basically the full line of cars, and during their career day, they got to play basically the game of life.
Hold on,
You educate them.
You're breaking up. Hey, Ben, hold 1 second. You're breaking up really bad. We're going to come back to you in a second. See if you can get a better signal, because we can only hear every other word. But we'll come right back to you. I want you to say that, because we couldn't understand other than a couple of the words. But let me go to Josh too while you're getting the better signal. Josh, from a BDC perspective, sometimes and then Matt I know has an incredible BDC, and there's a lot of dealers that are watching right now that knew the topic. They're coming in. They're saying, okay, so what's to do about this? And their BDC. Here's the thing: Matt can as an owner have a tremendous vision for this segment of people, because he sees, the opportunity that's there. But a lot of times someone in your position, right, or even those that work for you in the BDC are the very ones that have the first contact, right, with this customer. And so how important is it that that your team, that a BDC person has the right mindset, right, when they're talking to somebody that they may discern very quickly or determine very quickly is in a an unfavorable position, or maybe how important is that? And have you seen the negative and positives of that? Maybe you can share that with our listeners as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's obviously it is important, because it's obviously important to build an experience for a customer regardless of their credit situation. That's been something that's been extremely important to me. So, when I was at Dan Cummins, which was only 2 months ago, but, we created a finance BDC just to handle those types of customers, because, it's a different customer, and you have to get more information from them, but you have to still make them feel special and important at the same time. It's not just, we get an 800 credit score and all of a sudden we're, all giddy, because the majority of people that are putting in credit applications on a dealership's website are doing it because they want to save themselves the embarrassment of going into a dealership and finding out they have bad credit. Or they already know they have bad credit, and so they want to see if there's an opportunity before they spend their time inside the dealership. And so having your people ready and prepared with the word tracks and how to handle situations like that is extremely important, and they have to have a heart. These people, they've made some bad decisions, but you have to understand that, we went through a horrible recession not that long ago, and there's a lot of people who had a lot of issues during that, and so we've got these scores that are a little bit more challenging. Mm-hmm. But just because they're challenging doesn't mean that customer doesn't deserve customer service. And so building that experience and building the expectations for your people in the BDC to make sure they handle those customers correctly is critical.
Yeah, and those vehicles.
And real quick, I wanted to add something to. This is Patrick. I wanted to add something real quick to what Josh was just saying. That goes back right into what Danny had said at the beginning. Also, what Matt was mentioning. We have to change the mindset that we take with the subprime customers that come into our dealership, either via the showroom or the internet opportunities that come over through our, through our BDC or our website. Mm-hmm. So, I like what Josh was talking about there. Having that whole entire staff trained to know, to make sure that they have a heart and they care about the customer and they care to try and help them get through what the customer is having as a tough situation. And for dealers to sit there and bash them or treat them unfairly or treat them poorly, it doesn't really give them any more excitement to try and get themselves out of that situation. So what we should be doing as dealers, especially with our subprime customers, is trying to help lift them up, educate them. Like Danny said, it's a partnership. At the end of the day, it's a partnership, and it's a long-term partnership. Because it's not like you're going to put a subprime customer in a car and be able to trade them out of it in 3 years. You know what I mean? They have a longer cycle in their vehicle than your primary customers do.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Danny, I want to ask you a quick question as a dealer. I had an experience a couple years back where I went to purchase a car, and I sat down with a salesperson, and they started to interview me, ask me qualifying questions on paper, right? And one of the questions was, how would you rate your credit on a scale of 1 to 10? That's one of their normal standard on their worksheet interviewing questions.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who might be hearing that question as a prime customer, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? Do you think that's an appropriate question?
Yeah, I hate it.
Okay, you hate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
hate
don't.
it too.
I don't do what?
Ooh. Yeah, I can't say I hate that question too.
No,
I'm
I
sorry,
do too.
go ahead. I
And
apologize.
everybody teaches different things. I teach my people to go out and talk with the customer and immediately go to the 20-foot comfort circle, which is the vehicle they drove in on. And then I will find out things about their car. We're talking about something they own. And they will tell you through casual conversation how they bought it, how they got their payments where they did. And so if somebody tells me that I'm paying $487 for this, 2003 Malibu, you can kind of do some deductive reasoning but get information, because the way they bought that car is going to resemble the way they're going to buy the next car. And you can do those things respectfully, and you can get the information you need and still keep the customer experience where it needs to be. So I'm not a big fan of that. But then again, I think the silent walk around is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't like asking people how their credit is, or what's the most you'd pay. I frankly despise all of those tactics, but I'm kind of weird. I think people.
Matt, let me go to
No,
you.
Danny, you know what? That's really not that weird, because, think about it. We're asking these people before we've even built a relationship or started our partnership with them. We're asking them right up, how's your credit? What's your credit look like? I mean, that's a horrible way to really, really start getting to know an opportunity that you have in front of you.
Right.
Let me absolutely, Pat. And so, Matt, let me try to kind of get to the root of maybe even what that's caused from. And I'm asking you, Matt, because I know your culture, but I also know that you came into the business, a decade or so ago, where it was different. And although your dad ran a great business, it was still different. There was a different mindset. And then I know how you mentioned to me, listen, I'd rather market it a little differently. This particular show, than the Roach bait title for you. And so, does the internal Matt water cooler talk about subprime customers affect dealers' culture and their sales process? And if so, how? In other words, what people at the dealership talking about these customers, does that affect a dealer's culture, and should that be something that's monitored?
Yes, 100%. Like I said, it was part for social media, because I am related to so many of my clients online that I would never want them to see me even slightly use that term.
Mm-hmm.
But two, the other part is I preach so hard that we don't want to talk like that about a client in the building, that I didn't want any of my staff to see me embrace that term either.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, no one understands that what they think is bad credit, or what they think is the term Roach. These people come in, and we watch 483 beacon scores go away at 4.87% with nothing down. I mean, it's not your credit score. It's the same thing. Don't judge a book by its cover. We firmly believe that everybody gets a fair shot, and every bank should be the one that makes a decision. And shame on us for overqualifying or making someone uncomfortable based on a situation we don't know what the outcome is going to be until we're done working a car deal.
That's good. That's where it's really at.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I think oftentimes dealers miss out because we have salespeople sometimes on the front lines out on the lot qualifying people, and already giving them, if not flat out telling them they're not going to qualify, they're giving them signals, that basically this is maybe very challenging, or isn't going to work, or it's not worth my time, that kind of thing. So, Danny, how do we move that? I mean, how did you deal with that at your store? Like, how do you make sure that salespeople don't get into that type of conversation where a customer feels like maybe they've lost some hope before they've even gotten started?
Yeah, well, the good news is very few salespeople qualify at all. So a majority of them aren't doing that. And that comes back to the same thing that I always come back to, that Matt will come back to, that all of us that have been in the business, is just a lack of training and a lack of focus and a lack of awareness and a lack of accountability. And if you have a rock solid process and a way that customers are to be greeted with a concept statement about what we're about and how we do business and what our value propositions are, and that we're here to serve them, and we start a conversation. When you start a conversation and you're disarming, that information more often will be offered to you. You don't have to dig. So there has to be that trust built, and then that information starts flowing freely. And we've all been in that situation where it's flowing more freely than you're even comfortable with. I mean, they will spill their guts. And then everyone comes onto, it's what I tell my people, is that everyone comes onto the lot with a dilemma. Okay, maybe they have a Mazda Miata and she's pregnant with triplets. That's a dilemma. Maybe their car went over 100,000 miles, ran out of maybe they're having a hard time with their credit. Maybe they need to, there is a dilemma. So our job is to establish a relationship and then build trust, find out why they're there, what's going on, and then just kind of just systematically find out a way to solve the problem in a friendly way. So we tried to handle that in the short answer, or the long answer to your short question is from a training and process standpoint. And most all of these situations come down to that. Would you agree, Matt?
Yeah, I think that it's one of those scenarios where when you first greet the client, 99% of the time, if you're willing to have the conversation, they're going to tell you all those needs. And so you don't have to get into that grilling. And Danny said it best, talk about their car, talk about whatever it is that, in what we actually use, everyone can use their own style. We try to find the trigger that brought them in. And it's not just, hey, they came in with a piece of IPD mail. It's we say, all right, cool, I'm glad you got that mailer. What was it on that mailer that brought you in the building? And they're going to tell you their story from it. I heard your radio ad. What was it on the radio that brought you in the building? Talking about the trigger that brought them in the store is the real goal they want achieved. And that's how you're going to sell the car. That's how they're going to work with you to make a car deal happen.
That's good. That's good.
Josh, let's ask you a question real quick. When it comes to like the subprime buyers, their customer experience, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The customer experience for the subprime buyer before they walk in, what does that look like, and is there a way to, how can we improve on it?
Great question.
Well, obviously you have to get your people ready and you have to train, like we talked about, and a lot of key things is this training and retraining the frame of mind. I believe that with my training that I do with my people is, you have to let's try to get as much information as we can and give the customer hope for gain. Because that's all they're looking for. They're looking for hope. And it's not like you have to, everybody's talking about, well, if they submit a credit app, then they're going to want to know the interest rate, they want to know the payment, they want to know this, they want to know that. That's not the truth. The reality is that just give them hope for gain, that they can come into your dealership and have an amazing experience and get a vehicle that gets them from point A to point B. It doesn't have to be, you'll get them that, you have your subprime customers who say, I want a diesel truck, and they drive out in a Chevy Cruze. And so don't let those things get in the way from getting a customer in and creating that experience for them, because in reality, when they're faced with, 10-towing it or a Chevy Cruze, they'll pick a Chevy Cruze. And so that training piece is crucial. You have to get them prepared to be able to answer those difficult questions, and making sure that we're not skirting those answers, and answering them correctly, and just giving those people hope for gain.
Thank you, Josh.
And then, let me ask you, Josh. Josh, this is Patrick. I just wanted to ask you a quick question. When you take these calls in, obviously, you're one of the best BDC guys on the planet. So when you take these calls in, you don't really treat the call or the opportunity as it's coming in any different than you would any opportunity, because you don't know what the credit's like on the phone or when they first come in. Correct? So we should always, like Josh said, the customer experience starts when they hit your website, and they're all the same when they hit your website. They're all the same when the opportunity comes in. They're all the same when they get to your dealership. Now, maybe you may have to tweak a few things while they're there, while you're working through the deal, putting them on the right vehicle, getting the right deal structure in place to make sure that they get approved and they're able to drive out of there. But the experience is the same, whether it's the president of the United States, well, maybe that's a little different, or, the guy that just walked in off the side of the road. The experience should always be the same.
Yep.
Absolutely. Hey, Patrick, actually, I want to stay with you for a second. Steve Sonning said, Lou, why don't you go to the bookshelf and get a book? Steve just sent me a book, too, and it's a yellow book. It's on the right bookshelf in the library. Okay. Steve Sonning, man, I'm gonna plug your book, too, man. Thank you for sending that to me this week. But he says this, and Pat, I want to ask you this. He said salespeople, and kind of going back to the question Tommy asked Josh that you just commented on, he said salespeople ask the credit question because they say they don't want to waste their time with, quote, deadbeats. And he said wrong approach. But here's the reality. So, Pat, I want you to kind of speak to it and go through kind of the airwaves and speak to the managers that might be listening that are responsible maybe for this, because you can't blame a salesperson for doing that if it's coming from the top, if that's what the talk is. Like, if Matt's not going to let someone stay at a store, right? He's not going to endorse that. He's not just going to push it out. But if you got a salesperson, you can't blame the salesperson for thinking that way if that's all they know, because their time does get wasted because nobody treats that process right. So, and by the way, this is Steve Stonning's book.
Absolutely.
Right here, that's Steve's book.
And you want to know something?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Do the book plug.
No, I'm holding it up while you talk. Go ahead.
All right, yeah. So, when, like you said, it does start at the top. And when I first started in the car business selling cars, I don't know, almost 20 years ago, I worked in a massively subprime market down south of the airport in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay? 2 of 10 customers that we spoke to, you had to talk to 10 before you found 2 that even qualified to buy a car, let alone that you knew you could close. Okay? But another thing that I'm seeing a lot of times with managers, finance managers, desk managers, people that are pulling and reading credit reports, they'll pull the credit, they'll look at the salesperson, they'll say, hey, go get another customer. They didn't even submit the deal because they say and they think that they know better than the bank does. Well, in my opinion, if I get a credit report, if I get a credit app, if I get a deal structure, the bank's going to make the final decision, not me, and not my manager at the desk. So really what we need to do is they need to actually start doing their job. Every customer has a chance and deserves an opportunity to have the bank make the final decision on what you're going to be doing. And if the managers don't start doing those things, they're going to end up with the salespeople that act and behave that way. And they're going to end up getting upset with them.
Yeah, the customer experience should not be situational.
Look at that, Jim. Look at that comment.
Straight through. Do what?
Look at that comment. That comment's speaking to that right there. Look at that.
Some stores hide their subprime.
I've got something to touch on as well. I'm glad we're talking about subprime and the concept, but I know a couple of people out there are trying to listen for some ideas that might help them with subprime. Okay. Well, we talk about the person that's a 450 score that gets 5%, or we talk about the person that had been to 19 stores and then got delivered. One of the things that we've learned, especially at our Mitsubishi store, a person that's on a car they want will find ways to make things happen also. It's not just the dealer that chases it. So one of the things that we've done is everybody that comes in, we give an opportunity to drive one of those new cars. We've got one of each model sitting up front, and we put them in the car. If they end up not budgeting for the car, or if the bank isn't perfect on the car, so be it. But if they really fell in love with it, and I didn't go out and just stuff them in the 150,000 mile $6,000 car from the beginning, many times they'll find the extra $600 down that might put them in to the new car with a warranty. Or they might say, wow, I actually do have a mom that works that will co-sign, or whatever it may be. So you can't overqualify and then try to put them in the wrong stuff, because then the emotion is taken out of the car sale. And emotion is what causes everyone to buy. And I would just stress that, and that's a major opportunity for a lot of dealers. You got to give people a chance to buy what they want. And the guy that says, hey, get out of here, go get another customer, he never gives that person a chance to buy what they want, who ends up throwing down $15,000 down on a $21,000 car because, damn it, they want to drive home in their Cadillac. So be it. I'll give them a chance to do it.
And I'll tell you what, I had a situation like that. I was 19 years old. It was right when Nissan redesigned the Maxima, put the 6-speed in, the rear bucket seats. I had the young girl come in, maybe 20 years old, ran her credit. Credit was terrible. Manager writes on the worksheet, goes, yeah, tell her I can get her approved 75% down. Get out of here. Go get another customer. So I go down there, I do, my little talk with the customer. Not less than 2 hours later, she walks back in with her dad, and her dad says, here's the money down. She needs to start getting her life in order. That's the car she wants.
Yeah. Yeah,
literally, we got it done right through NEMAC Tier 4.
And something, I would argue, Matt, that's actually what Patrick just said. I mean, if you heard somebody being a father, that obviously loves their kid and ultimately gives in. Maybe they said no 5 times before, but here's what changed their mind. We're those of us that are fathers, those of us that have fathers, and know that how that feels one way or the other. What ultimately moved that father was emotion. So, Matt, I wanted to come back to what you just said. Maybe, and you said, it's funny because you said an idea. So the moment you said that, somebody grabbed their pen and go, okay, he's going to give me something I haven't heard of. And the reality is, with the technology age that we live in, you went to emotion. So is that something, guys, and I'll let all of you comment, is that something that we've kind of taken for granted and maybe is missing, maybe missing in today's car industry? Emotion. I mean, take the process and drive it through the ground, but the emotion of man, somebody, can fall in love with this experience, fall in love with the fact that I get something new. And I think other industries, to kind of answer that, to other industries, the phone industry. I mean, my goodness, the phone industry, people line up to get the new phone because of emotion, right? I mean, it's not like you get the new phone and all of a sudden it starts holding itself and talking for you. I mean, the reality is there's not much difference, but we get emotional about it. So does somebody want to touch on that, or maybe all of you? Have we taken that
I'll
for
touch
granted?
real quick on. Oh, go ahead, Pat. You fire away.
Yeah, the emotional aspect of the car sale is the same for everybody, and if you can get them and keep them there longer, you have a better chance to deliver them. One thing about it is with, like when you have, and like you were saying, David, the father might say, okay, the emotion got him. Well, a lot of times, customers, you'll hear them they'll go to the dealership. That dealership was jerky to them. They weren't nice. They didn't treat them right. They come to yours. You treat them right. They see something different. Now their emotion level goes up. They go, wow, this dealer really cares. They're going to go and find that little bit of extra money. They're going to go find that extra dock that they maybe weren't able to provide to the other dealership because they just didn't feel like looking for it because they didn't really want to buy a car there. They're going to go find that cosigner that we may need to be able to get the deal done because you treated them right. Because you
and then to follow up that to a T, and so now we've taken a tough emotion they had. You've now accomplished a goal for them and made them happy. And when you sell them that car, that's why everyone always says, "Oh, subprime's loyal and subprime refers." Well, that's because you're the dealer that helped solve their dilemma, and that's where emotion comes in. And then so poof, I went in and 3 people treated me terribly. And one of those times I drove home. And I thought, I might not ever get a car. I might have to take the bus to work. And then that dealer finds the way to make it happen and works with me in this positive attitude. When that deal's done, I tell all my friends that because one of them I had a beer with the night before and said, dude, I might be riding with you to work tomorrow. I can't get a damn car. And when I show up with a car, I get to say, hey, look, man, you need to try them out next. Yeah. That's the joy of subprime. But if you treat them like the wrong type of client, if you don't embrace them, if you have a shitty attitude in the floor, if your culture's not right, then you don't get all the benefits. And all you think of them is a big waste of time, and you don't get the repeat, the referral, and the loyalty you deserve.
Hey, Cribbs, we got a comment that came in.
They are one of they are some of the best customers as far as referrals.
Absolutely. Hey, before Cribbs, I want to ask Danny a question, or I want him to say something he said this morning in our sales meeting. But Lou, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but a perfect example. You have some family members, right? Yes. And about 4 of them. Lou has sold more cars for Brandon Honda and John Marazzi this month than his top salesperson because once he found out that the general manager over there was able, right, to because we built a relationship with them through some training here recently, locally, and Lou found out this guy could get one of his family members done. Dude, Lou's Puerto Rican. Look, I don't know if you know about Puerto Ricans have a lot of family. They stick together. Lou had a whole car full of people, Matt, that bought cars from him because that's what you just said, right? They have literally sold like 5 cars in the last 30 days because of Lou. I'm beginning to wonder if he's getting some bird dogs. But, Danny, you mentioned something this morning about experience, not even really about this, but you were funny. You're a funny guy, Well,
remind me.
You're humorous. But you remember you said this morning about the restaurant. We had everybody rolling in there. You said about the restaurant comment where if you go to a restaurant, do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Walk us through that scenario, man, because this is exactly really what you were saying.
No, it's the difference between going to Applebee's and having some gum-smacking 16-year-old
Right.
saying how many,
Right.
and you sit there and she gives you that little vibrating thing. You sit in the corner and wait,
Right.
with all the kids that are puking in the lobby and whatever. Or you go to a restaurant and they say, Mr. and Miss Cribbs, we were expecting you and your table's ready. We've got your favorite table. And you walk through and you kind of got your chest up, you feel special. And,
Right.
and it's really there's no reason to act any differently with somebody that's a subprime customer. But it's really about, we talk about getting leads and doing all these things where they're getting subprime leads or whatever. Then when they show up, we lose our mind. And we just sit around and shovel them around and we forget to continue the experience. But that was what we had talked about on experience.
Yeah, and isn't that really your edge as a salesperson or a dealer, that you have that mentality when that customer walks in and you treat them differently? Because the customer, just like Danny mentioned, they're gonna pick up on that immediately, right? So there's your edge, and I think also Matt made a great point in that the dealerships are not the ones who make decisions on the finance. It is the lender, right? It always comes to the lender. And I think we also talked about earlier, maybe a sales manager that pulls the credit and just kind of throws out, hey, get the next one. No, we have an ethical obligation for that bank to respond, not us. But anyway, that's
It's the difference.
No.
It's the difference between being a salesperson and an advocate.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
What do you
So-
say, Josh Mitchell? Look at you. What you say, man? You're amen, and I see you over there just nodding your head yes, because I can see you in the corner. But I mean, is there anything you want to add to this dialogue? Because it's really good. It's I think that we could have a discussion all day long. But I mean, what's something you've heard in the last few minutes with the dialogue that you just really think might be something that needs to be hammered home a little further?
Well, yeah, it goes down to the sales manager just submitting the freaking deal. So many of them. I always have a thing with when I do sales training for new salesmen, and when I do BDC training, I say stay stupid. Because as long as you stay stupid, you won't get too smart that you start taking shortcuts. And I think a lot of sales managers and some finance managers have gotten too smart, and so they think, well, there's no way this deal is going to get put through, and they make the decision for the customer, for the salesman, that they can't get bought. And I've been a huge, I used to push subprime, with Dean Cummins, and I would have a finance manager that wouldn't want to submit a deal, and I'm like, look, I don't care what you think. I care what the salesman, what the finance company thinks, and then he'll end up submitting it, and it gets bought. And then I'm like, oh, but you said he couldn't get bought. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, stay dumb and just submit everything. You never know what the bank's going to think. You never know. They could be buying deep, and you didn't even know this. You got a 420, credit score bought with 0 down. You don't know. And they may tell you that you need to go a different direction. At least now you know that they can buy something instead of just saying, no, get another customer. And that's the biggest
a good
thing.
point.
Go
The
ahead.
great point on that is a lot of times you send the deal into the bank, even if they don't like that unit or the structure's not right, the bank will, if they want to buy the customer, they will give you a way to go on that deal. They will give you a way to go because they want the deal just as bad as you do.
Hey, Matt, this is Danny again. I got to, not to redirect, but just to this, we're talking about giving people some ideas and stuff. So I'm a person who's not been in the special finance niche much, but I want to get into that. I know that I'm missing opportunities at my lot in my market. What would be the first 2 or 3 things that you would say would be the primary ways to get started in that direction, outside of the obvious, but we would need to get people, but what are some things to consider going in if I want to participate and be effective in this manner?
Well, I guess if I'm the general manager or finance director, the first thing you could do is ask to see every single turned down deal before anyone can leave the building, and start to analyze those and see what there is. Second, I'll tell you, if you're not in subprime, you don't have to go out and sign up every third-tier subprime lender to learn this. What you need to do is hone in on 4 major lenders. Santander will buy about as deep as it all. Capital One has a full spectrum. Most of you guys have a Wells Fargo or an Ally Bank. And take those 4 banks and start, especially the ones that are getting your prime credit, and start giving them the bad credit too and asking for approvals. And really see that you don't have to have 60 banks and you do have to have niche banks, but at the same time, learn the trade the easy way. Those banks I mentioned are going to fund you a little easier. They're going to work with you on SIPs a little easier. As you get better, or as you trust people that you've hired or trained, then you can start to add a bank that might be a little more challenging. I'll tell you a prime example, a CPS. My team is a master, and they know that if they're working on a deal that's going to go through CPS, they have to dig deeper if a guy says he's on his job for 6 months and it's landscaping. Because in Michigan, we're seasonal. And there's a good chance that he might have just started back up because he's seasonal. That deal's going to come in and it might not be funded. Right. You don't want to be dabbling in that if you don't know your shit. So if you're a car person, learn on the AmeriCredits, the safer banks, and then you can get into the other things from there. But don't put yourself out where you're going to get hurt, and then you'll never come back to the subprime world.
What about inventory?
I have a note here because I wanted to bring this up because one of my used car managers and I had a chat the other day about we're trying to make another big growth in the used car department. And you also want to focus on profit. Well, it's not about having every single brand, make, model. It's more about having price point and payment. Right. And our conversation was this. So we're lean on cars right now, and a guy comes in and he wants to pay $300 a month. And because I have a $15,000 Jeep out on the lot, I can take him out to it, and we work the deal. And to get to his $300 payment, I'm going to write a deal, but it's not going to be a great profit. But if I have a $15,000, a $12,000, and a $10,000 Jeep, and I'm whatever 4-door Jeep, Liberty type stuff. If I have those 4 vehicles, I then can say, well, that $15,000 one, sir, with X amount of down is this much. This cheaper one here hits your payment goal with less down. And you can actually move a client to make the profit. It's not all about a bait and switch. It's about having the right car to match a payment. These people didn't come in on a what's it. They came in with a goal of a payment in a car. So you need to know that as a dealer. Don't just go buy $12,000 Sonatas and think I'm subprime. No, go find a $9,000 Fusion, a $10,000 Impala, and a $12,000 Sonata, and have something to move a client to fit your approval, so you can actually maximize some of the opportunity as well.
Right. We call it penciling down, where you would have 3 vehicles with different down payments to achieve the right payment. And I'll tell you, consumers a lot of times are a lot more excited about, I'll take the $2,100 down option, instead of the $11. Matt, do you guys do similar things like that?
Very true, and it's proven right now. I just read an article yesterday. 7% increase in down payments. The average used car down payment is over $2,000 right now.
Yep. Nice.
So if you're not asking, and all you do is try zero down, that's half the reason you can't either close a deal or you can't make any gross profit, because down cash is king. It's been that way for the 19 years I've been sitting here.
Right. Great point.
And it's even more prevalent. It's even more prevalent on the subprime side. Of
course,
You really, that's what they want. They want to see the customer make it. The commitment up front. So the bank is, it's almost like the bank is protecting not only their asset in the car and their relationship with the customer.
Yeah.
Good.
One last thing I'll touch on inventory, just to bring it up, because I think it's also a little bit missed.
I wanted to touch on something here with that too.
Good.
Go ahead, Matt.
New cars. Subprime people don't all drive used cars. I don't have the math in front of me, but if I called Capital One and said, how many of your deals that you call are subprime are actually on new cars, I guarantee it's 50% or above.
I was going to say,
and so these little inexpensive sedans and SUVs that have a big rebate, if I have nothing down and no negative equity, but I can show a bank a wonderful 85% LTV and a payment they can budget for, you might have a lot better chance delivering that car than you do on some vehicle out here you had to pay book for just to own it on the used car lot.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good.
That goes with that kind of goes with what I was getting ready to say is, with your bank, especially when you have the 4 or 5 that that are a little easier to work with while you're trying to get through, and learn subprime. Know the cars that they like to fund for those customers. You know what I mean? Not every customer, even if you budget, even if you and everything lines up, dollar-wise. The bank may say, sorry, I'm not putting this customer into this car. They need we want to see him in a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla or something that's more economical, that if it breaks down in 2.5 years, they're not going to have this big out-of-pocket expense, so we know we're going to still get our payment.
That's good.
So you want to make sure you have the cars that the banks will actually fund.
Patrick, why don't you keep the floor for a second and go ahead and wrap up and give us your closing thoughts, brother?
Just treat it always goes back to the same thing, and we harp on it all the time in the car business. Treat everybody the same, treat them well, and you're going to earn their business. Work hard for the customer, work hard for your salespeople, and then get on the phone and work the bank. Because more times than not, if you pick up the phone and you have a relationship with your buyer, you're going to be able to get more deals than you think you can bought just by picking up the phone. So, treat people right, make sure that they understand that you're there to help them, and then also let them know that you're even there and you're willing to help them.
That's good.
Somebody and I wanted to give a shout out to somebody specifically in my market who does this daily, and he's very good on Facebook about it. Some of you guys may know him, Ryan Duck Dunstan. Mm-hmm. He is a phenomenal subprime salesperson, and his market is predominantly subprime, but guess what? Every single time he treats every customer the same, and they love it.
That's
and
awesome.
He's one of the top guys they have in Georgia.
Awesome. Yeah, he's been on the show before, a really strong guy. Well, thank you very much, Pat. Cool. And Josh, go ahead and give us your closing thoughts, and then also let us know how they can reach out to you as well. Man, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have a BDC or if you, whatever the case may be, make sure that you train those people to handle those calls, and don't open up the door like we were talking earlier. Don't open the door and ask people about what their credit is. It doesn't matter until they get into the showroom and they see the car and they fall in love with it. And so, make sure that you get the right people. Make sure you continue to train. And like Matt said, get the inventory and the right inventory that that your lenders are going to like, and that are something that your consumers are going to like. Don't get you could get the purple Charger, but make sure you get the right inventory that is going to work for the lenders and for your customers. And train and train and train. Training happens every single day with my people, and it will continue. I don't care how long they work for me. I don't care how long that they stay here. The fact is that training happens every single day, and to make sure that you do that with your people is critical. And you can find me obviously at Auto Disruptor on Twitter, at Auto Disruptor Gmail, and then my cell phone's 859-421-9377.
Matt, you've been throwing fire, man. You've been throwing fire and hammers all day. Do you have anything left?
Well, I guess let's just end it with this. Why subprime? Okay, number one, when the market is bad, even more subprime comes out. They don't go away. They're always the type of people that will send you referral business, and they're loyal. And when you're a dealer that embraces it, you don't even have to go out and chase it. They'll start coming to you. You'll be known as the place that helps people out, and that's what our focus is.
Man, awesome. If a dealer does want to reach out, I know you've made yourself available. How can they reach out to you if they want to maybe pick your brain, ask you questions?
Real simple is LascoFord.com has got the main number there. You can call me at the store anytime. I live here. And then my email address is mlasco@LascoFord.com. I love chatting cars. I definitely have done some consulting for stores. If you're in need of help or you're trying to ramp up and start a department, hit me up and we'll see if I can help you out.
Awesome, man. Guys, thank you so much for hanging with us. It's been great.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, buddy. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you, Pat.
Thanks, guys. Great show.
Josh. Thank you, Matt.
All right, bye.
So we got a few minutes, Danny. We'll start with you. Let's read some of these comments, guys. We got some comments that have been coming in. If you want, we do have a couple of minutes. I know Tommy's going to make an announcement. He got a text message. Ben Burton dropped off, but I'll let you announce it in a minute.
Yeah.
Ben's given us the ability to announce where he's going and when he's starting. But if you do want to call in, we do have a couple of minutes. We could probably take a few calls or a couple of calls while Tommy's gargling in my ear. 813-574-1820. Lou, can you throw that number up there? 813.
Where is the number?
It's not up there. 813. There it is. 813-574-1820. It's right on the screen. You can call in. We only got a few minutes, but if you want to call in and make a comment or a statement, we'll start with you guys and Cribs. And you guys, let's read the comments, man.
Yeah, Calvin Pierce at Pierce Auto says, establish a relationship with your car customer and find a way to solve their need for a new vehicle. I think his point there was, doesn't matter what the score is. Doesn't matter prime, subprime, whatnot. That's your job, right? Joey Perez, boom, Josh Mitchell and Patrick O'Brien killing these points. Eventually, these people will buy, so why not begin the relationship process, even if they can't buy on the first day, and help them? Sales go up and down, but service is forever, in my opinion.
That must have came from Facebook.
Hashtag.
That must have came from Facebook. That wasn't 120 characters. That's
Hashtag Tuscumbia.
Hashtag long-winded Joe.
Hashtag
chapter
Tuscumbia.
2.
I love him. Tuscumbia in the house. Holla. That's your boy. Diane Uzelak, a sales manager cannot make that call. She's referring to the, I guess, when the sales
Submitting a deal, yeah.
there you go. They need to give them an adverse action notice if they don't submit them. They have just exposed the dealer to being the lender.
That is
Maybe
correct.
even have to buy or give the customer the car. Is that is that the legalities of
That
it?
is.
She knows her stuff.
whole
Wow.
aspect
Wow.
of the
Wow.
giveaway
Wow.
Yeah,
artist.
I mentioned ethically obligated, but it's really legally also. Go ahead, Danny.
Wow.
Donald Friedman, you guys are all assuming subprime customers don't know how to buy a car.
That's kind of true.
And I think I think you're right.
Yes.
I think that assumption is made, and I think what's
Good point.
interesting is that we started out with a tone in this conversation, and in this show, in all discussions where you're going to conferences or you're reading, it always comes back to the customer experience, because that is what that's what we're facing. So there's no reason, like the comment said, there's no reason to exclude or discount a person based on their ability or inability to do what you think's,
How about this, Danny? I've seen subprime scores bought as prime deals.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that happens every day.
Yeah. You
know?
just don't know. I think
Yeah.
that's the key. You don't, we've taught way back in the day when we didn't really talk that much about this. We talked about cherry picking. We talked about going out and making assumptions, and you just can't do it. Everyone can buy a car in one way or another. They can find a way to do it. It's just a matter of giving them the same experience. And I think that's what the comment spoke to.
Well, it comes back to what you started with, Danny. To be honest with you, it comes back to the fact when you started the whole conversation off discussing the customer experience and discussing the fact that how important that is. And I think it just comes full circle. Bobby Herring says we make decisions in life based on reference points. Unfortunately, that means that when we've seen a situation occur 10 times, we assume what will happen the next time. You have to make a conscious effort to stay off of autopilot. Great point. That next time is only guaranteed to be the same if you decide it is.
I've got an idea. Every time one of the salespeople come in and say, I've got this Roach or this Vogue or whatever, we can't, I'm not going to waste my time. I think that salesperson should have their credit pulled immediately and their beacon score posted
There we go.
on their social media site.
Like a scarlet letter. They have to wear a shirt.
Because
Put beacon
I
score on
can
it.
almost
I'm
bet
a
you my
480.
paycheck that their beacon's lower than the person they're bitching about.
Woo,
So,
there you go.
That's tough love from No Pants Dan.
I mean,
That's a boomerang.
they're going to leave and be off the next day, and they're going to be at another car lot because they're embarrassed, begging someone to help them out. So, it's just it's kind of ironic.
You want to
don't
read that,
think?
Danny?
Yeah, Mike Hirschfeld at Foundation to Win. It's feelings, not facts, that drive behavior. You won't change what your customer will do until you first change how they feel. Exactly what we're saying. So, Mike, you're right on point. You've got to. It's an emotional situation. You've got to get them excited, and again, once they have that good experience, they're going to tell everybody. So.
Yeah. Tom, you want to read the last? I think we got one more comment up there. We can read.
It's Mike again. The outcome of each sale is determined by what you ask, what you say, and how you act. Your customer is motivated. What is that for? What is that? Is this for change?
Hirschfeld
For
needs to start his
change.
own poster company that we can
Yeah.
frame them and put them out. Those
Oh
are
yeah, I
so
see a
quotable.
sunset behind that. The
Somebody
last one had a
walking by.
I
cat.
see seagulls.
How about this? We walk by. Is that original Hirschfeld?
It is. That is. Waves crashing.
Gary
That's pretty
James
cool.
Knight, what are some practical tactics that prevent people from spending too much time on a challenged customer, or is there such a thing? What are some practical tactics that prevent people from spending too much time on a
Practical
challenge?
tactics.
Say if you had to put your credit score in, but if you had to give it a Roman numeral think of your credit score as Roman numerals. Shoot them to me real quick. I just want to see. I'm doing a thing for a thing, and I need Roman numerals. Right?
I think,
try it like that.
I think if Gary's asking, I'm trying to figure out if he's asking what are some reasons.
Well, no, because we were talking about how to not pre-qualify somebody. I think he's saying.
Yeah, if I'm reading into it, he's basically asking, is there maybe such a thing as spending too much time with a challenged customer, and what maybe where those cutoffs lie? I mean, that's what I'm reading into it.
I think there's too much. I think if we're going to treat customers like a customer, not treat them in a class like the Titanic. I'm thinking Titanic, right? You have all these classes, then you can't treat them like a class. In other words, I think there's such thing as spending too much time with any customer.
Yeah, let me say
if
this.
They're not going to,
Yeah, let me say this real quick because we oftentimes here we talk about best practices and we're oftentimes talking about what we're doing wrong a lot, right? So let's talk a minute about what we're doing right with customers because I believe that a large portion of our audience has it right because when a customer comes in, most salespeople, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, not only are going to treat the customer well, but also they are look, it's a win-win, right? If they don't win, we don't win. So we're going to typically do anything we can to help that customer get into a car. I think most salespeople feel that way. Most management teams, dealerships are really for the customer. And I think if there are consumers watching this show right now, that they should be aware of that as well. That again, it's not the dealership that makes the lending decision. However, it can be the dealership that partners with you to approach the lender. And we are for you if you're watching, and maybe you have had a situation, or maybe the credit score isn't what you'd like it to be right now. If one dealer's not helping you, go to another dealer that's happy to see you.
Absolutely. Guys, we got to wrap it up with it. But Mike Hirschfeld did say that, yes, this is original Hirschfeld, baby. So
we love it.
We just started
Let the bids
we
begin.
just make sure you get an original Hirschfeld.
And we had Ben Burton on the show earlier. He was in apparently Podunk somewhere, and he couldn't get good signal anywhere he was. So he apologized for having to drop off.
He was in Bedrock. with
somewhere in North Carolina. So he is officially, guys, at the end of the month, he wanted us to make the announcement. He is officially running at the end of this month, Four Seasons Ford in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Congratulations on your new position, Ben. We look forward to great things.
Four Seasons.
Four seasons. Something we don't get here in Florida. We get two.
Isn't that a chain of hotels, right?
Yeah.
And isn't that
That's
a group?
where I thought he was
Frankie
going when he
Valley's,
said that.
Frankie Valley.
Frankie Valley, right. Frankie Valley Ford. That's where he's going.
All right.
So congrats, Ben.
Yeah.
Give us a call when you can get some, reception.
That's funny. All right, Danny Benitez, thank you so much for being with us, man. Got a pleasure hanging with you today.
Such a funny guy.
Thank
you, Danny.
I've had a lot of fun hanging out.
Good guy.
Danny, we would love for you to might as well take a bow. Take a bow.
Yeah, take a bow. I've been
Stand up. Tell her, show it. Stand up for the audience. They want to see you.
I've been consciously
coming up a
trying to
little
keep my
short. He
hands
doesn't-
above the table.
It's chilly in here.
He's
It's a little
coming up.
chilly.
Listen, Danny's come up a little short right now, so we don't.
We'll see you guys later.
It's,
Bow out.
It's very cold in here, Danny.
It's
very cold.
That's
It
so
is.
ridiculous.
All right.
The pain is real.
Guys, thank you so much for hanging with us. We'll see you next week.
Good to see you again.
Make sure you get Steve's book. It's pretty cool. Look at this.
What's the back say? What's the back say?
Come on, really? Oh,
Crap,
crap.
not another success book.
But look, here's what's really cool.
I love it.
Look, here's what's really cool about it. Look at this. I mean,
There's
it is
pictures.
Cool. Look, yeah, man. Come on.
I like pictures.
With ADD like me, it's like the far side over here. Whoever this artist is really cool.
Andy Capp.
I'm not sure if
Is that one of them?
Steve wrote. I can't hear myself. Like if Steve wrote these or drew these himself, but these are really cool, Tommy. And for ADD.
Steve, let us know. Tweet us if you're the illustrator on this as well. We'd like to know, just for no good reason.
Steve, if you send me a few of these bad boys, I'll give some away.
Yeah, thanks for sending me mine, Steve.
See you.
Love y'all. Bye. God bless.